Hey, I'm on the edge of my seat here, back again with another brand new video. And today I will be no damaging all the boss fights in Spider-Man 2 on Ultimate difficulty. This is the difficulty you unlock after beating the game once. And this is a video which I wanted to release a lot earlier. In fact, I kind of wanted to release this no damage video last month in October, around the end of October or whatnot, but that just simply was not realistic given the fact that this is a decently long game, not the longest I've ever played. The amount of missions isn't as massive as some other games. It only has like 31 main missions and a decent amount of side content. In fact, I'm not even sure if this is true or not, but it definitely feels shorter than the first game, but I'm not sure if that's because it has less content or if the content the content that is there just like, you know, makes me less bored or whatnot, because like I got tired of this game a lot later than I did of the first Spider-Man. And mind you, that first Spider-Man game for PS4 developed by Insomniac, I really liked that game. I've also no damaged all the boss fights in that game. Check out that video if you can. Just look around on my channel. I think I have a playlist for my Spider-Man no damages. But yeah, no, this game definitely feels shorter, though I'm not sure if it actually is shorter. And for this first boss fight, there's not really much to say here, but SANDMAN is pretty much the entire intro section of the game. The first game also had something kind of similar to this, and honestly, I'm not sure if I like that one or this one better. I am inching towards liking this intro section better. It is a lot more impressive, the set piece is a lot more showy. But I think one thing which I liked in the first game better is just like that first swing, like the music that they chose, and just Spider-Man like living in like a dead-end apartment. I really like that, though. This game's twist on that is still fun. Like Peter trying to be like a school teacher, and also introducing Miles there. And one thing which is definitely better in this game is that this boss fight is just like a lot more substantial and it's like its own unique boss fight. Because in the first game, the boss fight you end up facing is Kingpin, which his moveset is just the heavy enemy moveset for like the rest of the game. Like Kingpin doesn't even have an original moveset, he just has a moveset which every single heavy enemy is going to have. As for strats, once we reach this section, however, one thing which I do like about the first game more is that the boss section and the level section is definitely separated, while here the SANDMAN fight is basically just this entire level, because pretty much like the way it flows, SANDMAN has like phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and some of these phases are interrupted by you fighting these clones. But these clones are also SANDMAN, so they're also part of the fight. And also with the other no damage videos which are out there, which no damage Spider-Man 2, they pretty much do this entire level in one go, so that was pretty much my challenge. And pretty much the hardest part is that it's the entire first level of the game. It's 17 minutes long, so messing up once means you have to go through that entire 17-minute section again. So pretty much my strategy for dealing with these small enemies is just to pretty much stay in the air, because if you stay in the air, the enemies can't attack you down below unless you're too low to the ground. Sometimes if you're a little too low to the ground, some of the enemies can actually clip you. So stay really high in the air, just drag them up, beat them down, and kind of keep dodging in the air to kind of keep the air momentum going, just so that you don't fall to the ground. And if you're attacking an enemy and you're starting to get lower and lower to the ground, do a swing kick. Most of the time, the swing kicks will pretty much launch you and the enemy higher in the air, just so you can keep that air time going. And another thing you want to watch out for is that these enemies, okay, so this is on a new game. This is not New Game Plus, because as of this moment, I believe New Game Plus isn't even available for this game, which I do think is a little absurd, but pretty much it forced me to do all the boss fights on New Game. So this is a completely fresh save file. This is the beginning of the game with no upgrades, no modifications, just straight up the beginning of the game. But to be fair, for the next couple fights, that isn't really going to matter, because I'm basically going to do every single piece of side content available before I even face the next couple fights, which means I'll basically be fully upgraded in every way that matters. But for this first fight, this is a level 1 no damage, which is pretty much the only way to do it at this point in time, though maybe in a year's time or in a couple months there might be a New Game Plus, not sure when, but it'll probably exist at some point. So yeah, every strategy I use against SANDMAN here is pretty much applicable on New Game. Another reason why this video took a lot longer than I was expecting it to is because once I actually started no damaging these boss fights, some of these fights took me forever. There's certain fights in this game that took me 4 to 5 days to complete. Okay, I don't think any of the fights took me 5 days, but some of them definitely took me 4 days. Like, there's certain fights which I really suffered with. Sandman is not really one of them, though he did have a decent amount of challenge just because of the length of the fight. So, like, you know, if you mess up in a certain phase because you were unfamiliar with how to deal with something, then you pretty much have to repeat like an entire 17-minute section. So the thing you have to do now is pretty much like web up Sandman's face so that you can get this big contextual triangle button to pretty much go in and punch him. Very similar to a lot of the fights in Spider-Man 1, which surprisingly, this is like the only fight which is designed in this way, I believe. I can't think of another fight in this game where like a big triangle prompt like pops up whenever you actually have to like attack the boss fight, because I'd probably say that Sandman is the only like really gimmicky fight in the game, where most of the other fights in this game are surprisingly like combat based per se, where you can kind of dictate the flow of how you fight them. While in the first Spider-Man game, there were a couple fights that were like purely gimmicky and kind of set piecey, and honestly kind of similar to a Lego game where you pretty much are forced to follow the game's flow. Sandman is that sort of fight. As for what strategy I'd recommend for doing this phase, we'll see. There's a lot of attacks that Sandman can throw at you that are very, very easy to dodge. Like that big thing that big little sword he like throws at you or tries to like swing at you. You can pretty much just spam the dodge button and Miles or Peter will pretty much auto dodge the attack. However, there's one specific attack Sandman can do which you can't exactly auto dodge, and you have to be a little careful about it, and I'm not even sure if it showed up during this attempt, but Sandman can kind of like breathe sand at you, kind of like, you know, blow sand in your face, or just kind of summon a sandstorm of sorts. I forgot exactly what he did, but you can't auto dodge that attack. That is actually an attack which you have to dodge, you know, like not be in the vicinity of, you know, not be in the area, because if you're anywhere near close to that attack, you actually take damage. So that's like the one attack you should be worried about. And also with Sandman, since you have to be web swinging the entire time, definitely keep web swinging. Also, I should note that during every single fight in this video, I have set my web swinging assist to 0. So a new feature which this game brings is that you can pretty much turn off a lot of the hand holding which the web swinging normally has. Normally when you start this game, the web swinging is set at 10, which is pretty much full assist. And in the original game, you couldn't edit this at all. Pretty much, you were always forced to like have some sort of like hand-holding assist in the first game with web swinging. But here, they're kind of giving you the option to mess up a little. So if you turn this option all the way to 0, the physics kind of guide the web swinging more, which will lead to you actually like hitting the ground more often. Also, another feature which I have pretty much turned on is fall damage. So in the first Spider-Man game, there was no fall damage, but now they've added it in, and it's a little clunky. I don't know, like sometimes I take damage at points where I really don't think I should have taken damage, and sometimes I'll fall from like a really high place and take 0 damage. So it's not really implemented in the most smooth way possible, but I'm glad it's here, because I don't know, just one thing which I didn't really like about that first game is that there was really no consequence to web swinging. You know, like if you mess up the web swinging, no biggie, right? Because you don't really take damage from falling. And also the web swinging had all those little assists and all that, so pretty much it's very easy, very, you know, nice going, but it didn't really make you feel like Spider-Man per se. It made you feel kind of like you were controlling a robot of Spider-Man per se. I don't really know how to describe it, but with some of the, you know, more renowned like swinging Spider-Man games, by more renowned I mean the original Spider-Man 2, you know, like that web swinging is so intricate, and look at Miles, he just glitched through the area. I'm actually glad I caught that for this no damage attempt. It is always fun to like kind of catch glitches during your no damage attempt. But yeah, no, I mean, the web swinging in the first Spider-Man like PS4 game was fun, but, you know, very hand-holding. And, oh, did you see that? I just took damage, but am I a fraud? Is this video fraudulent? Well, sadly, this is just a forced tutorial, which pretty much teaches you about the healing option. So pretty much if you build up your focus meter, you can use it to heal yourself, and the game just had to force it somehow in a way for players to, you know, actually use it. And since I was planning on doing no damage, if I never took damage in this section, they could never force a tutorial to teach me about the healing mechanic in this game. So yeah, no, that's forced damage. There's no way to avoid it, sadly. So since it's completely forced, I'm just going to... I think this still counts as no damage, given the fact that, you know, in every single section where damage isn't forced, I'm not taking damage. So yeah. By this point, the projectile enemies have been introduced, so pretty much whenever you see that projectile thing pop up, definitely dodge that in the air, so now air combat has become a little bit more complicated. So yeah, no, pretty much my whole strategy here with fighting the enemies is air combat. When I have the focus to do an insta-kill, do an insta-kill, and whenever I can do a Venom Punch, you can do a Venom Punch. And thankfully, because of these Sandmans have a unique property where like the Venom powers just instantly kill them because it like crystallizes them. So once you do a Venom Punch, those enemies are out of the game completely. It's kind of weird that these like SANDMAN or whatever have this property when not many other enemies in the game really behave in the same way. You only really fight these SANDMEN in this like beginning level and in a little side quest where you go to these sand crystals to fight like waves of enemies and whatnot. But after that, pretty much the Venom Punch just, you know, it damages enemies, it stuns them, it like gives them a little electricity, but it doesn't instantly knock them out. And oh yeah, so something I really wanted you to keep in mind about fighting these Sandmen is that another unique thing about them is that even though you have no upgrades, one full like 4-hit combo will like knock them out. So you know, you drag an enemy to an air, you hit them like 4 times, you know, do a whole big combo, except for the projectile enemies. Only with like the melee enemies, you pretty much drag them into the air, do a 1, 2, 3. Oh, and that's still a projectile enemy, still a bad example, but whenever a normal sand enemy pops up, I'm going to teach you all about a sort of rhythm you have to keep in place with air combat. So go 1, 2, 3, 4. He's dead. So do not keep pressing the attack button, because if you press the attack button after that enemy has been defeated, the game might just like auto launch you back down to the ground to do like, you know, the big stompy punch attack. So, you know, just be careful about that. So, you know, once you do 1, 2, 3, 4, dodge away, drag an enemy up into the air. That's pretty much how I like to keep my rhythm. With the projectile enemies, this is different. They do take a bit more damage, and they do take a lot more punishment, so the rhythm with them is a little different. And also, when you start incorporating, like, swing kicks into the mix, it does kind of, like, mess things up, because, you know, once you swing kick an enemy, they don't die in, like, 4 hits, they die in less. So your combo might end sooner than you're expecting, so just, you know, be prepared for that and pretty much readjust your plan wherever necessary. Oh yeah, by the way, here's a tip which I don't even think I knew at this point, but I pretty much learned about later. Oh yeah, by the way, oh wait, no, this is actually a different section. You don't need to worry much about anything here, but okay, so here's a tip. So with aerial combat, remember how I said you can dodge to kind of like, you know, finish a combo, dodge, pull up an enemy in the air? You know, dodge kind of like resets your momentum, you know, kind of keeps you in the air for longer. However, you can't dodge multiple times unless you're actually dodging an attack. So sometimes I like to mix in a dodge, and then I like to do like a little web zip. Pretty much press like circle and then X. However, if you press X to dodge away from something, you can't really do it twice or 3 times per se. Sometimes it kind of depends, because sometimes I've been able to do it 2 times. You're kind of doing like a little zip zip. However, by the 3rd or 4th time, you'll like lose momentum and start falling to the ground. However, if you do pretty much X circle, you can kind of do it like an infinite amount of times and get a lot of good air time if you're really high in the air. You know, just kind of like web zip, dodge, web zip, dodge, web zip, dodge. However, if you're actually dodging an attack, because like some of the later fights in this game, when you're actually fighting enemies that, you know, really go hard in the air and they do like multiple, like, you know, 3-hit combos or whatnot, you can actually spam the dodge button to dodge all those attacks, and that is something which actually comes in very handy with certain fights and also with the final boss. It's very important for him, but we'll get to him when we get to him. This video is nearly 2 hours, and since the video is nearly 2 hours, I think I actually messed up at this section once before. It's not really the hardest section, but you know, I kind of got clipped because I wasn't familiar with it, and I had to redo the entire level over again. That was very frustrating with doing the Sandman fight. But yeah, no, to get back to it, every single fight in this video is a single segment, 1-take affair. What this means is that I don't like restart from any checkpoint in the fight. From the beginning of the fight to the end of the fight, which of all the fights I put in the time code, I do it from beginning to end in 1 take, pretty much like the entire thing. And I want to clarify this because some of the other no damage videos I've seen on YouTube, they actually don't do this. What they do is that they'll play like the first phase of a fight, and once they reach the second phase, they'll restart by the checkpoint of the second phase, because a lot of the boss fights in this video do have multiple phases, and honestly, some of them do get a little egregious. Like, some of them get like ridiculous. Like, some of the later fights have like 4 phases. Each phase takes like 4 minutes and has like a 2-minute cutscene in between each phase. You know, like, it really gets absurd. There's one specific fight I'm thinking of, which, you know, we're not there yet, so we'll get there when we get there. And I'm just remembering the one time I messed up this section. That was definitely frustrating, and I definitely messed up for like a dumb reason, though I do not have footage of my mess up because, well, okay, so now that I've pretty much finished my video and I have all the footage I need, right now the folder for my Spider-Man 2 videos is 45 gigabytes because I am recording at 1080p 60 FPS, and thankfully since this game is on the PS5, I'm just using the PS5's recording software, which maybe isn't the best. If I recorded this video with my Elgato, it would look maybe a little crisper. Also, this footage was never going to look the crispest possible because I am playing this with the performance mode in mind, and I'm just a huge fan of Insomniac, like including performance mode in their games. Now, from what I remember, the original Spider-Man PS4 on the PS4 did not run at 60 FPS no matter what you did. There was no like performance mode option because that game just, it was going to run at 30 given how good the graphics were. However, it did get a remastered version on the PS5, and that's the version which, I no damaged. And that version introduced the whole idea of the performance mode. So, if you want to play at 60 FPS, you play on the performance mode. If you want the game to look pretty but run at 30 FPS, you play on the fidelity mode. And when it comes to, no damaging the game, if I want to have more fun, have a video that just looks smoother, I'm going to go with the performance mode, visual fidelity be damned. And the game still looks kind of nice, but I'm sure it took a few concessions here and there in order to achieve that 60 FPS. And I'm sure one of those concessions is that it doesn't run at 4K. I'm not 100% sure about that, but even if it did run at 4K, I wouldn't really be able to record 4K footage just because I don't really have any software or hardware that allows me to record in 4K right now. The PS5's like self-recording software only goes as high as 1080p 60 FPS, which is still like a huge improvement over the PS4, which was stuck at 720p 30 FPS for like the highest, frame rate resolution. So it's really like a lifesaver because, setting up the Elgato can be a little annoying with all the cables I have to kind of go through, and also like it definitely takes up a lot more space. But even with like the space-saving like PS5 owned self-recording software, my folder is still like 45 gigabytes of footage because it's a long video, it's a lot of fights, and also I do have a lot of like little funny glitch clips because, well, I've got this game on day one. It is a big open world game, and my goodness, if you play this game for long periods of time, which I have over 100 hours in this game, but mind you, most of the reasons why I have over 100 hours in Spider-Man 2 is because the amount of times I had to retry certain fights. I swear, like 30 hours of my playthrough, I swear, can be dedicated to just the amount of times I've retried fights over and over and over. Like, the certain fights took me 4 days. Thankfully, Mysterio is not one of them, but Mysterio is no slouch. This was a bit challenging for me. I mean, the little cutscene interruptions between these fights could be a little egregious. Honestly, like, this is actually one of the less egregious in the context of the whole game. Not the least egregious, mind you. There are fights where the cutscenes flow a lot better and are like, like shorter than this one, but this one compared to some of the other ones isn't nearly as bad as like some of the later fights in this game. I don't know what it is with Sony Interactive, like, Sony exclusive, like, big budget games where every single fight has to have like a massive movie in between phases. Like, from what I know, the new God of War games also do this, though to be fair, the old God of War games were also kind of guilty of this, but to a lesser extent than like the 2018 and Ragnarok games. Mind you, those are games I haven't played yet. I've only played like God of War 1, 2, 3, and the first PSP one. I have not touched the 2016 or Ragnarok yet. I do plan to someday, and honestly, someday I do plan on no damaging them, but yeah, pretty much the way I like to start this fight off is I do like a big jump, kind of a big charge jump, dodge the first attack he does, try to web him up. Once he's webbed up, I pretty much punch him a whole bunch until we get to this phase. Now, a lot of the no damages I've seen of this fight, they kind of like to stand still while Mysterio is like monologuing here, but I kind of wanted to make this a little bit more Spider-Man-y, so I'm just swinging around. And this phase is pretty much just a bunch of enemies show up and you have to punch them down. So similar strat to my Sandman video, except this time these enemies don't all die in 4 hits, so you have to be a little bit more careful. Also, I have to pretty much confess, Miles is incredibly overpowered in this game once he's like fully upgraded. However, when I say fully upgraded, I'm technically lying because I have 0 damage upgrades at this time. Also, be careful with the big enemies because, when you try to like, you can like pretty much zip up an enemy to the air and punch them, but if you try to zip up a big enemy, they'll actually pull you in and you have to like press the dodge button quickly or they'll do like a punch and they'll pretty much damage you. But yes, to repeat myself, at this point in time I have no damage upgrades. In the first fight I had no damage upgrades. In this fight I have no damage upgrades. However, like, you know, if you've played this game, you kind of know how the separate upgrades are pretty much split up. You have the gadget upgrades. I believe at this point in time I've upgraded all my gadgets, or at least most of all my gadgets. And then there's like the tech upgrades, so that's also split up into 4 different things: traversal, focus, health, damage. I have fully upgraded my focus and traversal. I'm pretty sure I have. By this point in the game, I think I've fully upgraded those, but I've completely avoided the damage and health ones. Now, with the health one, you are kind of forced to get the first one. That's why I have 110 health, but I've avoided the rest of them. But I did completely avoid all damage upgrades at this point, so just kind of because, like, if I did get all the damage upgrades, I would, like, completely annihilate this boss. Because right now, with no damage upgrades, I'm dealing good damage to the boss, like, really good damage. However, there does come a point later in the game where having no damage upgrades makes the fights a complete slog. And I'll let you know at what fight I upgraded my damage. It'll be kind of obvious because it's also the fight where I upgraded my health to, like, a similar number to what I upgraded my attack to. I don't go like max attack in the first fight where I upgrade my attack, and well, I'll just elaborate more on that later. So Mysterio, you have to punch him. You know, he kind of has a few free hits every now and then, but if you web him up, you know, it kind of leaves him vulnerable for like one combo. And the gadgets are also really useful in this fight. I mean, okay, the gadgets are useful in every single fight. Way more useful than they were in Spider-Man 1. In Miles Morales, the gadgets did have a good use, though I don't know if every single gadget was useful. Honestly, my memory of that game is a little foggy. Like, Miles Morales definitely made it easier to, like, curve stomp the boss fights. Because, like, in the first Spider-Man, since they kind of had a bit more of a Lego game design, you pretty much were forced to, like, you know, land 1 to 2 combos, and then, like, the fight would say, nuh-uh, and, like, pretty much forces you to back off. And there wasn't much you can do to, like, manipulate that. Well, in this game, there's a lot more you can do. So, yeah, that one attack Mysterio does, where, like, he gathers energy and explodes, it's very annoying. You have to keep your distance, or, you know, do something which gives you iframes, like an insta-kill attack or one of your electric attacks with Miles. But yeah, the reason I said that Miles is overpowered despite having no damage upgrades is that once your focus is fully, like, you know, upgraded, and you also have all the normal upgrades, because once you get past the gadget upgrades and the tech upgrades, then there's just like a normal upgrade tree for Miles. And, you know, once you have your focus fully, like, you know, maxed out, and you have like the Miles tree fully maxed out, you can do this thing where, alright, so you have like these heat gauges, right? And once one fills up, you can do an insta-kill. However, you also have this separate gauge for, like, once that's fully filled up, you can do like this super duper electric attack, like explosion, which like pretty much like blows up a bunch of the enemies around you. But with Miles like fully upgraded with, you know, with like his normal upgrades, every insta-kill you do fills up that, like, you know, big explosion gauge a lot. However, once you do the big explosion gauge once, if you have the upgrade, it completely fills up your heat gauge, which gives you 3 insta-kills if you have all 3 gauges available. And once you do 3 insta-kills, if you're fully upgraded, it will pretty much fill up 95% of the super explosion gauge. So what you can just do is pretty much do like the 3 insta-kills, you know, get like 3 easy like kills, and then do like one of your electric attacks, and then your big explosion gauge will be fully filled up by the time you've done that. So you can pretty much just cheat the fights by doing that loop. It just loops in on itself when you're... So pretty much like fighting normal groups of enemies is completely pointless because you can just let the game play itself. Now with boss fights, it's not as overpowered, but it still is pretty overpowered. And it's definitely overpowered for this phase of the fight where Mysterio has like multiple versions of himself, so pretty much. And each version can be like insta-killed with just 1 gauge. Usually the boss fights are balanced that you need to have like 2 gauges to do an insta-kill attack on them, but with Mysterio, since he has like 8 different versions of himself and like each version is pretty weak, only 1 gauge is needed to like insta-kill them. So you can just do 3 insta-kills, do like a little 1 attack, a little electricity to fill up the big explosion gauge, do the big explosion gauge. It pretty much just loops in itself over and over and over. Oh my goodness. Like Peter is so gimped when compared to Miles, so like whenever you're fighting a Peter boss fight, it will be harder due to the fact that he just doesn't have these like broken abilities that Miles is just like blessed with. Honestly, maybe it's an upgrade you should avoid when playing the game. It just makes it way too easy. Like, whenever you're playing as Miles, the game just plays itself. Also, if you're wondering why I'm not playing with the Spider-Verse suit, it's because everyone and their mother will be playing with the Spider-Verse suit. Like, I am not the first person to do a no-damage video on Spider-Man 2, though I might be a little egotistical to say I'm the one who made the best video. But besides all that, People have already made their no damage videos with the Spider-Verse suit, so I decided to have my own unique spin on it, and I decided to go with my second favorite suit. Like, I love that suit Miles has. And I'm gonna go with the black Sam Raimi suit. In my first Spider-Man video, the Spider-Man PS4 video, I went with like the classic Sam Raimi suit. So for the second one, I decided to go with the evil Sam Raimi suit, because this is the game which introduces the symbiote. And you know, I love how the Sam Raimi black suit looks. It looks great. I love the suit a lot, though sadly whenever you actually activate your super duper symbiote powers, you pretty much are forced to like witness the original Insomniac like black suit, which does look good, but like I want my Sam Raimi black suit, not the Insomniac original black suit, you feel me? And this game just has a lot of opportunities that it steals from you because it forces you to use their brand new original suit. But as for this fight, this is a very tough fight. Like, Yuri here is a very tough enemy. Honestly, it does feel like you're fighting an opponent that's like on equal strength with you. And also, this is a fight I am doing with no damage upgrades, which you deal decent damage against her, but like it is a little bit of an endurance test. Though this is one of the fights with some of the better cutscene transitions. Like, the cutscenes don't last for too long. Like, this one, it's only like 10 seconds, and then boom, we're back into it. Though we are still kind of in the first phase of the fight. So this fight is unique in the sense that, like, it has cutscenes interrupting, like, certain sections of one phase, while some of the other fights, cutscenes only appear when you're transitioning between phases. So this is something unique about the... I don't know how to pronounce the name of, like, her, you know, super villain alter ego, Wraith. You know, it is Wraith, right? Like, there's Wrath, but I don't know what Wraith means. Like, Wraith is like a mystical, like, monster or whatnot. But yeah, for the actual strategy for fighting her, we pretty much have to, like, immobilize her before we even think about approaching her. Because if you attack her willy-nilly, she'll, like, parry you or attack you or dodge or do whatnot. And also, this is just something that's kind of true with most boss fights. You have to, like, completely web them up, you know, like, have your web meter, like, completely filled. And once, like, you see that their enemies kind of in this animation of being, like, caught in, like, this webbed up state, you go in for the kill. And every now and then, you can mix in, like, your super abilities or some of your gadgets to interrupt the boss fights. And depending on the boss, certain gadgets are more useful than others. For this boss fight in particular... So you kind of have the little rocket one, which kind of sends her up in the air, but this only really, once again, sends her up in the air and lets you get in like 2 or 3 hits if you're lucky. Then you have the webs, which I'm saving for the second phase. This is really useful, pretty much keeps them like webbed up for like 5 hits. And then there's the electric one, which has a hidden property, which well, it's not hidden per se, but it's one which I wasn't expecting to be as useful as it is. Pretty much, you'll throw like the electric one, it'll kind of like zip her into like an area, and it'll leave a throwable, like, you know, electric bomb to throw at her. Once you throw that electric bomb, it lets you get in another combo. I've already used up all my electric bombs, you know, because I used them all in the previous phase. But yeah, no, like, if you want to make the most out of that electric bomb ability, like gadget, you have to throw it at her, and then it'll, like, pretty much open her up for, like, another full combo. Now, the one gadget which isn't that useful in this fight, but it does deal a decent amount of damage, so, you know, you can, like, throw it in there every now and then, is kind of the concussion blast. You know, it, like, pretty much blasts her, stuns her for a bit, but it doesn't really open up any new combos, so... It's not really that useful. Okay, I hate this phase because pretty much you have to like parry her, but the timing is extremely weird and I hate it. Okay, no, the timing for dodging this is just like, I don't know, it just feels incredibly unnatural. I don't like it. I don't even like parrying the attack. So pretty much what I like to do to speed things up is kind of, I parry the first 2 hits, and then like for this third one, I kind of start zipping around. I start dodging in the air frantically, hoping that like nothing bad happens. And I try to web her up while she's trying to do the attack, because by the time she's like on her third attack, you can kind of maybe stun her if you're lucky, and it works. But like that section of the fight, that little smoke phase, is honestly kind of a crapshoot even for me. Like, I just hate it. But yeah, no, here I'm actually making use of the kind of web gadget. And something you gotta worry about is that once you reach this phase of the fight, Yuri takes on this unique property that none of the other boss fights have, where she just has super armor. And she has super armor in a way where like her animations like never change, because like some of the other boss fights, whenever they like break out of an attack, they'll actually have an animation like pretty much knocking you off of them, which kind of gives you a chance to react. Yuri doesn't really have this. Like, you saw when I was hitting her, right? Like, she didn't move. None of the other boss fights operate like this. It's just like a big super mode she has because she's that tough. And also, once you're in this phase, you can no longer juggle her, because you'll like do the big juggle attack. See, whenever you do that, like that juggles the enemy, but Yuri just will literally tank every single hit. Like you'll try to juggle her, she'll stay, her feet are planted straight on the ground because she's just an incredibly heavy enemy. Like she has manipulated gravity to just be here. Like, you know, she's on, like once we reach this phase, she's operating on like planet Jupiter rules, right? Like she just took the gravitational pull of Jupiter and has brought it to Earth and has applied its rules to only her ass, you know, like, oh my goodness. I do really like this fight, but it is an incredibly tough one. I do remember struggling with it quite a bit. Not a 4-day struggle, mind you, but it was tough. But honestly, most of what I found so difficult was that smoke phase. You know, like I'll deal with the first phase, and then I get to the second phase, I mess up at the smoke phase because, you know, the dodging timing is weird, the parry timing is weird. Oh yeah, this game does add like 2 new mechanics, the parry and the crush attacks. And the combination of these like new attacks brings me a lot of pain, because with parry attacks, they're attacks that you cannot dodge. You could jump away from them, so pretty much you have to like swap out pressing the dodge button for pressing the jump button when you see that sort of attack. And the lucky thing is that with most boss fights, you could just jump away from all their attacks and that counts as a dodge, but then you have the crush attacks, which you cannot parry. So, you know, with the parry attacks, you can jump away from them, but the game wants you to parry the attacks because it's the only way to deal with those attacks. You can't dodge them, you have to parry those attacks. But then there's the crush attacks where you can't parry those attacks at all. So a lot of the boss fights, they have very quick combinations of either like parry attacks or crush attacks. Like sometimes like these bosses will have like 3-hit combos, but for the 3rd hit they'll like switch between a parry or a crush attack to keep you on your toes, and I just absolutely despise it. So I do like this mechanic with the parries and like the crush attacks, you know, kind of like the people that can actually pull it off, you know, it's like, hey, that's cool, that's like some nice skill and all that. And hey, you don't, the parry isn't just limited to like parry specific attacks, you can parry any attack. However, if a boss fight is doing like a 3 or 4 hit combo, the parry will only work on the last hit of that combo. You can parry like the other hits, but it won't stun the boss fight. The boss fight will only be stunned once you've parried the final hit of the combo. But yeah, like a lot of these boss fights, they have like 3 to 4 hit combos where on the final hit they can alternate between a crush or a parry attack. So most of the time I just avoid parrying boss fights. In fact, for some of the final fights in this game, I completely avoid parrying just to do my own thing. Like, nah, I'm gonna do my own thing. Also, another thing that I really should mention, though one thing which I should be talking about more, is the strategy for this lizard fight, which I've been completely neglecting, but I'm just going to continue neglecting it to mention this really important thing here. These Venom attacks, they don't have iframes. The beginning of them don't have iframes. In fact, I'm pretty sure that like throughout this entire animation, you don't have any iframes, so you can't just spam them willy-nilly, because if you spam them at the wrong time, the boss fight will attack you and pretty much like negate your entire attack, and then you lose like the little thing. You have to like wait for the cooldown meter to pretty much like cool down. Like, it sucks. Because there's like other like super attacks which I think do have iframes, or maybe I'm just misremembering, and it's like something from like the first Spider-Man or Miles Morales where none of the attacks, like all the attacks have like iframes. Like Miles' electricity attacks, most of them have like full iframes, but yeah, no, these big Venom attacks, like they have a lot of like build up and startup, and during that startup the enemy can mess you up. But anyways, let me get back to talking about like actual strategies, you know, like how to actually fight the lizard. So yeah, no, in the beginning I pretty much like pull that panel to like stun the lizard for like one full cinematic combo. But something to mention about that is that in the lizard fight, if you're playing it normally, the beginning has this tutorial prompt for crush attacks, because this is the first like main story boss fight that introduces crush attacks. Though what's so ironic about that is that you can encounter crush attacks in the side quest boss fights before you reach this point. Like WRAITH had a crush attack, but no tutorial prompt like showed up when I fought her before the lizard, but once I fight the lizard, the tutorial prompt shows up. However, you may notice that this tutorial prompt did not show up in my fight, and that's because when I was fighting him, I abandoned the mission and then leveled up to gain new abilities. Not damage, mind you. This is still a fight which I did no damage upgrades for. Mind you, the lizard is one of the beefier enemies in the game, so maybe you should get a damage upgrade for like this fight. But what's ironic is that the next fight after this one has less health than the lizard, so, you know, the no damage upgrades worked better for that fight. But for this fight, like, oh my goodness, like he just takes so many hits. Like, you're dealing chip damage against this guy with like no damage upgrades. By the way, this is the fight that took me 4 days to no damage, around 4 days or whatnot. This is the fight that started driving me insane, though that is not to get confused, because like every fight after the lizard also drove me insane for different reasons. In fact, they drove me insane in different ways. It's like this game frustrated. This is like one of the most frustrating no damage experiences I've ever had in like out of a lot of things which I've no damage. It's not the most frustrating, but like one of the most frustrating. Definitely the most frustrating Spider-Man no damage. It's like every fight after the lizard, like pretty much like enraged different sections of my brain. Like, you know, different sections of my brain got like the pain massage for like a couple weeks on end. My goodness. But yeah, no, I abandoned the mission. I leveled up more to like gain new abilities, and upon returning, you know, if you do this mission, abandon the mission, and then return to the mission, the tutorial prompt doesn't show up anymore because it showed up before you abandoned the mission. So like after you abandon the mission and return, they don't need to show you the tutorial prompt anymore. So, you know, I actually got hit waiting for that tutorial prompt to show up, but it doesn't if you're going for this, if you're trying to do this mission a second time, you know, after abandoning it. Also, you know, if you restart the checkpoint for the first phase of the fight, that is something I will be doing in this video. I will restart a checkpoint for the first phase of the fight because that's the beginning of the fight, so it's fine to restart it, because like I don't want to see the cutscene every single time I start the first phase of the fight. Though for the second, third, and fourth phases, I won't really skip any of the cutscenes because, you know, it is integral to like the flow of the video and the fight. Though some fights are a little egregious with their interruptions. The lizard kind of has this really egregious interruption where you have to like chase him, and like, you know, what makes me mad about this like phase is that you can fail it. You know, if you let the lizard get away, you know, like you fail the entire thing, and like that messes up the no damage. But I had this really frustrating experience where the lizard was 70 meters away and he just disappeared. He like vanished into thin air. I'm gonna upload a video which like showcases this insanity. It was incredibly frustrating because you go through like those first two phases and they're incredibly tough, but then like, you know, if you mess up in this phase, it's like you're like the biggest bumblebuck on the block, because, you know, it's like it's really dumb to mess up this phase, but it is possible. So, you know, like my swinging here isn't really the best. In fact, I actually like hit the ground every now and then because I have my swinging, you know, assist to like set to 0. So, you know, you have to be a little bit more like deliberate with how you swing so that you don't hit the ground. No, when I hit the ground, I don't take damage because I do hit the ground from like a very low height, but still it slows me down. So I'm sorry about that. I'm not the best swinger in this game. And also, the thing about this thing is that whenever I activate the web wings, I've had these weird experiences where like Spider-Man just decides to like immediately like snowball like into the ground, because like it's just like a weird thing with the way this section is scripted. I don't know. It's just, it makes the chases like not fun, because like it's so scripted that whenever you try to do something like kind of cool, like the game kind of freaks out and like pretty much like makes you nearly fail the entire thing. So I'm gonna keep things pretty simple. I mean, hey, I do activate the web wings every now and then, but you know, no, they're not called web wings. They're like, it's like the wingsuit, right? But yeah, no, it's just a very frustrating thing. It is a very easy chase, especially compared to like some of the stuff in like the original Spider-Man 2 and Ultimate Spider-Man, but you know, it's still one where like if you get lazy with it or if you get too good with it, the game might just like glitch out and like make you fail the entire thing, and then whoops, gotta do the entire phase 1 and phase 2 again. In fact, I might be one of the only no damage videos where I actually do the entire lizard fight in one go, because a lot of these other videos are like restarting from like the checkpoints in phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Though honestly, for this fight, I kind of get it because it is egregious. It is really egregious, like the wait time between these phases, and also like how long some of these cutscenes are. Like, these are like basically like separate fights put into like one big fight. And that's the thing about this game, is like this game really like makes every single like boss fight feel like a final boss fight, because they all have like 3 to 4 phases with long cutscenes, you know. Like the only fight that feels like this in like the first Spider-Man PS4 game is like the final one and like the second to final one. There's like no other fight in that game that's like that's as long as like a majority of the fights in this game. Like they're all epic, but honestly that also makes the fights in this game better, because like some of the fights in that first Spider-Man PS4 game kind of feel like throwaway fights, while here, every single fight is a fight. You know, it's like a fight to the death. You can like kind of manipulate how you fight the boss fight. You know, it's like skill-based. They have like health bars, you know. It's not like all automated. You know, you actually can like manipulate when you want to attack them. You can get creative, you know, like when you can like manipulate when you want to like stun them, you know, like what gadgets you use. The gadgets are actually useful, you know, like you have a lot of tools to like fight the boss fight. So like, they are more fun than like those like previous Spider-Man like 1 boss fights. And in Spider-Man 1 boss fights, like some of them just play themselves, while here, for the most part, you are playing the game. You are like fully invested in like its combat and all that. So like I do like these Spider-Man 2 boss fights a lot more, but to no damage them in one take is excruciatingly more painful compared to the previous games. So like Insomniac can give themselves a pat on the back for making it like more skill based, but also I kind of hate them for the pain they've put me through, or the pain I've decided to like put myself through in making this video. Also, I like to address a nitpick where restarting a checkpoint maybe makes the first phase of this fight easier, but also it doesn't, because when you first like start the fight, you know, normally, you know, like cutscene, enter the fight, you know, like no game overs, like, you know, first attempt, the lizard will immediately like rush at you. There's like no wait time for the lizard to like show up. While every time you restart a checkpoint, the lizard will just stand still for 1 to 2 seconds, which gives you enough time to pull the panel behind him. While normally, well, I mean, the first time, you know, like he'll run at you and there'll be a tutorial prompt. However, if you abandon the mission and return to it, that tutorial prompt is gone, and you know you have full control in that beginning section, and the lizard just immediately like rushes at you. So you have to be quicker with pulling the panel. While every time you restart the checkpoint, you know you pretty much have a freebie for pulling that first panel. Though another thing is, even if you like, you know, in that first phase, even with the tutorial prompt, if you dodge his attack, he'll just be on the other panel on the other side of the room. And also for strategy, I like to like not pull the second panel until I'm on the second phase, so that's why I didn't pull it when he was under it the previous time. But now here we're in the 4th phase, which is the most painful phase of all. He has the most health, to my knowledge, and also this arena is a bit annoying, and he gains some new attacks that are just excruciatingly painful. Also, I don't even think I've talked about any strategy on how to fight him, but yeah. A lizard, he's a big boy, you can't juggle him. However, one thing which I really like is that whenever like the lizard is like done being attacked by you, he has a very specific animation where he just like is done being attacked. Whenever he does that animation, that's pretty much like a signal for you to get the fuck away from him. Oh, should I use that word in this video? I don't know about that. I'm gonna keep it in. It's like 40 minutes in. I don't think YouTube is gonna pick up the fact that I said a no-no word. But yeah, no. Whenever like the lizard does... Okay, I'm gonna wait for him to do the animation again. It's kind of like one where like he's like pretty much settling back. Like pretty much if your hits aren't affecting his animation at all, that pretty much means that like, you know, he's done and he's ready to do a big attack. But I'm just glad that that animation of him being like done, you know, like taking damage is so like long. You know, like it's a pretty long animation. You know, like boom, boom. I mean, like, if your attack, like, makes the screen shake and it kind of makes him shake. In fact, there's kind of this thing where you'll do, like, a 4-hit combo, and he doesn't do, like, the attack where, like, he's done being hit. You know, like, he's still, like, being damaged by your attacks. You can continue your combo for, like, a second combo. It is kind of, like, it's not that rare. It is kind of rare, but it is possible. So every now and then that does happen. Boom, boom. And yeah, with the Venom abilities, I kind of like to do a thing where I go for like a 2 or 3 hit, and then I do the Venom ability, because the Venom abilities like pretty much like flow like smoothly into your combo if you do like 1, 2 to 3 hits. However, if you do your final hit and then try to do a Venom ability after that, it does not flow smoothly. There's like a delay to like pull out the Venom ability. But yeah, no, the lizard here, pretty much it's kind of the name of the game is stun him with webs, stun him with like your abilities, you know, use your gadgets. I think I saved most of my gadgets for this phase in particular. You know, and also just like be aware if like, you know, your combo is still damaging him or if he's ready to like, you know, retaliate. Also, one thing about the Venom abilities is that the big explosion one and the punch one don't really do much to like stun him. Like, mind you, the stun which like the Venom abilities inflict is kind of random. Like, you know, sometimes this one will like stun him for like 2 to 3 to sometimes if you're really lucky 4 hits, but it's kind of random like how many hits you're like allocated before he decides to attack you. And sometimes it gives you no opening and he just immediately goes to attack you again. But like the punch and the explosion one are like usually pretty bad about this. Like they'll usually like not open him at all for combos. So yeah, now stun him with web. If you see that he's like stunned, there's a specific animation he does where like, you know, if you like hit him with enough webs, you'll start like trying to pull it out of his mouth or his eyes. You know, that he's open to be attacked. However, this is kind of true with like most of the boss fights, but it's definitely true in this final phase of the lizard fight. But like in the final phase of their fights, like they can become a little inconsistent about whether they like a full gauge of like web will stun them or if it won't stun them, because like it kind of pisses me off because, you know, like you'll use your entire gauge of web in the first phase and it completely stuns them. Even in the first phase, it can kind of break out of it. Like you'll use your entire like, you know, webbing system at them, and because they're in the middle of a specific attack, they decide to not be stunned. So like, even though sometimes in other times like they'll be doing the same attack and you'll like waste all your webs trying to web them up, and that'll stun them, but later on they won't be stunned just because they're kind of inconsistently designed. I don't know, it's like the way they're designed, they're just it's inconsistent if they're stunned or not. I hope I'm making sense, but I am pretty much like kind of rambling at this point. Oh, this guy is infuriating with that. Like, this guy like just kind of refuses to be webbed up sometimes. And also another infuriating thing about this fight in particular is just the arena. Like, okay, I kind of moved on from the lizard, but I wish there's like more things to talk about with the lizard. Like, some of those new attacks which really annoy me in that final phase is the screeching attack. He gains a new crush ability where he just screams at you. It comes out very quickly, so just like whenever he's doing a combo that could like combo into that screaming attack, just dodge away from him, because I do kind of like to stay in the air, but sometimes I stay a little too stationary in the air because I'm trying to like web them up or like zoom in and then punch them with like, you know, my strike attack, and then he'll just shoot that projectile at me and it kind of ruins my entire run. I've had so many runs with a lizard ruined precisely because of that screaming attack. I despise it. It's probably my least favorite attack in that entire fight. But yeah, no, for the other attacks, it kind of has like the 1-2 with like the clawing. In the first phase, he only does the 1-2, but then in the later phases, he adds a third attack, so I stopped doing the parries in the second and third phases of his fight. And yeah, the entire third phase is just pretty much a cinematic set piece that's very easy to get through, and the fourth phase is very tough and challenging, and I had no damage upgrades. And now here we are fighting Mr. Negative. But let me get back to the lizard because I forgot to mention something very important. So I do stun him a lot, but you don't have to stun him to, like, you know, get in a combo. Sometimes once he's done with an attack, you can just rush in and attack him before he starts the next attack. And inconsistently, most of the time he will be like stunnable. You know, he'll be like open for a combo once he does like one attack or does like his little one attack chain or whatnot. And this is also true of Mr. Negative, but Mr. Negative is a tricky person. Like, you know, just like the way his attacks work, they're all very fast. They come out very fast. Look at that. It comes out so fast. You have to like learn these attacks like by heart, know how the animations like work. Also keep the sound cues in this game. You know, the crush attacks have a very distinct sound cue. So whenever he does a crush attack, you know, dodge that. And Mr. Negative has the gimmick where you can't just like dodge his attacks. I mean, mind you, like parries like have that gimmick, but when I say that with Mr. Negative is that he has like directional attacks. You know, he has like the vertical attacks, you have to dodge those horizontally, and then he has like the horizontal attacks where you have to jump over. Like no other enemy like operates on that same level as him. Also, what I just did there is an inconsistent stun lock. It's the reason why my combos with Mr. Negative are a little bit weird. I kind of go for like attack, attack, web strike, attack, attack. Because if you just do like a full combo, the last hit of like your combo, you know, like the final hit just sends him flying across the room. And that's just frankly not a good thing to do in this like arena in particular because, okay, this arena and the next arena that comes, just like any arena that's like, you know, has like KRAVEN in it, somehow has this annoying detail where the spikes actually damage you. And like what messes me up about that is that this game's combat, when you're really messing an enemy up, you know, like, you know, just hitting them, like, you know, destroying them, like, you know, doing aerial attacks, you know, dragging them into the air. I'm not sure if I drag this guy into the air or not, but I do that with some of the other fights. I do that with the next fight. As you know, you'll get too close to the spikes, and then you'll take like chip damage because you like accidentally made contact with a spike, and I hate it. I hate that design decision. It goes against everything this combat is like, you know, striving for. You know, like if you want to do cool aerial things, or if you want to like destroy the boss fights with these stun locks, like these little like environmental hazards just ruin your entire flow and like ruin the scope of what you can do in this game. But yeah, the way you do this stun lock, I have no idea. Also, the reason I avoid doing like a full combo is because if I activate this stun lock by accident, if I do a full combo, send him flying away, he can kind of recover from it before I can take advantage of it. But if I do like, you know, attack, 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 web strike, attack, 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 web strike, you know, it's like a consistent combo. So if he's like in this like weird, inconsistent state where he's just like completely defenseless, I can like notice that because like, in a normal fight against them, like, you know, once you do like attack, attack, web strike, attack, attack, by the next like web strike, he'll like immediately break out of it. And he does have a breakout animation. I do have to appreciate him for that. But also for this phase where like, you know, he pretty much like sends you into like his demon state and like you have to wait for your electricity powers to recharge. The way I like to dodge his attacks is just by going up in the air and dodging it that way. Like the tornadoes, they just, I don't know, I feel like I got hit by those tornadoes, didn't I? Like, I mean, I was really close to them, but dodging them in the air just makes it that, for the most part, you don't get hit by them. Sadly, that like weird stun lock state I put him in, like I don't, it's inconsistent. There's like no consistent way to activate that stun lock state. You just have to get really lucky. And thankfully, I got lucky enough that it showed up in the first and second phase of my no damage attempt. You know, like I was planning on showing it off in a video. In fact, I actually made a video where I just showed Miles like stomping out his negativity, but it's actually in my no damage. So you know, like when you see me like no damaging this fight, there it is. I'm just stomping out my negativity and taking 0 damage for this entire fight. Though sadly this fight does have like a second phase that's like a little bit more gimmicky, honestly more like a level, but I decided to include it because the other no damage videos also include it, though it is very easy, like the next phase. Though I failed it once and I felt very sad because like this is a very challenging fight. Like you have to learn Mr. Negative's like attack patterns, they're very fast, you know, like this fight has a lot going on. Thankfully he doesn't have that much health in like his phases, and also thankfully in this phase, okay, so you can do this cool thing where you turn invisible as Miles, and when you're invisible as Miles, like Mr. Negative doesn't really do anything. However, in the last phase, like he will do things, but he won't be able to aim it right because he doesn't know where you are. Also, turning invisible during like the normal fight has weird properties where if Mr. Negative is going to do like a 3-hit combo of some sort, and you turn invisible before he does the second hit, he'll just stand still and kind of like, you know, super armor through like all your abilities. He won't attack you, he'll just stand still and take the hits until you turn visible again. So when I was saying that Wraith has a unique thing where she just stands still and like has no like reaction animation to your hits, I guess that was kind of a lie, because Mr. Negative also has that same trait if you turn invisible, and he's like, before he does the second hit of like a 3-hit combo he wants to do, you know, he wants to do like a 3-hit like combo string. So anyways, here we've entered the gimmick part of the fight. Though, to be fair, maybe this will be a bit more challenging, like, you know, the later sections, if you don't fight it the same way I do, or if you just aren't, if you don't have all the upgrades I do to be as overpowered as I am with Miles. But, you know, another reason I really love this design is just, like, the silhouette when you go into, like, demon mode. He's going to go into the silhouette mode later, but he was in silhouette, you know, in the earlier parts of this fight. Just, like, the fedora has such a distinct, okay, that's, I'm sorry. I feel like I'm going to be very cringy by saying fedora. That's not a fedora, is it? It is a fedora? Like this hat he's wearing is a fedora, right? Because if it isn't, I'm going to look very, very foolish. Or, okay, look, you can't look at me. I'm gonna sound very, very foolish. I don't even need to add the 2 varies. I'm going to sound very foolish. So yeah, no. The one time I failed this, mind you, once I reached this section, like, you know, I've reached it twice. You know, like the first time I took damage at this section in particular because I didn't dodge like the energy waves he threw at me correctly. And I was like so disappointed. Though thankfully I'm kind of glad I failed that section, because now I redid my no damage and I got lucky enough to like include that like weird inconsistent stun lock, which you just like destroy Mr. Negative against the wall. Like that was not in my first like no damage, where like I failed this section. So thankfully I failed that section so I could do a better no damage, and now this is the second time I'm approaching it and I'm not taking damage. So yeah, we kind of have this little flying section where you kind of like dodge those little things and just be careful. You can like auto dodge the horizontal ones, but the vertical ones you actually kind of have to like dodge with your own skill. Kind of. Or just like be more particular about like when you press the dodge button. You can't just like spam it willy-nilly. You know, I really don't think I'm doing these fights justice, because there's a lot of like, you know, things I could go further into detail with, like the lizard fight, the Mr. Negative fight. For when Mr. Negative has like that one like ball projectile that comes out really fast and it's very annoying, especially when like you try to hit him and think he's gonna do a melee attack you can easily avoid on the ground, but no, he's doing his projectile attack and it kind of ruins everything. Like, not the horizontal vertical attack, just the one where he shoots a bunch of balls at you. Like, Mr. Negative is just a very annoying fight, and I don't know how to fully describe him, but there's like a lot of like subtle, okay, I don't know if subtle is the right word, but there's a lot of details which are very annoying, but I don't really know how to elaborate on it. So I'm just going to talk about an issue I kind of have with this game. It's the wingsuit, and it's just that it really doesn't have any use in combat. Right there, I was able to activate it in like the little in-between phase between like the first group of enemies you fight and then the second group of enemies you fight. But I really wish this game incorporated the wingsuit in a way that could be used in combat, you know, because like in combat you can like web swing, so why can't I also use the wingsuit? And it's because the wingsuit is the same button for the web strike, so, you know, when you're just swinging around the world, you know, you're not gonna like web strike anyone, so they just triangle activates the wingsuit. But then when you're in combat, you know, like you can't have the same button do 2 things, though. Okay, that's a lie because this game is like heavily built around like contextual attacks, but yeah, no, like when you're in combat, you cannot activate the wingsuit. In fact, in the Mysterio fight, there's actually a very frustrating example of this. You know the Mysterio fight, like earlier in my video where you're like chasing him, like, you know, there's like buildings teleporting out of nowhere. You cannot activate your wingsuit during that section. Because like you're still like in combat mode. I think it's absurd because you're chasing after him. It's a swinging section. Why can't I activate my swing suit during the swinging section? So just, I feel that was very annoying. Like you can't even like map the wingsuit to like a shortcut because this game does have like, you can map certain abilities to like a shortcut on the D-pad because the D-pad isn't really used for anything in the game. Which is, you know, I'm very happy about that because on one of my controllers, the D-pad, like the up D-pad, I think is broken. I didn't break it playing this game though. I think I broke it playing like Guilty Gear or whatnot, you know, just playing the fighting games and all. Guilty Gear, Street Fighter 6. There was another one which I forgot about. Mostly Guilty Gear. You know, I've kind of been alternating between Accent Core, Xrd. Not so much Xrd, but Accent Core and Strive. I think I kind of broke the up D-pad just playing those games. Or the controller's just old, but like the PS5 isn't really that old though. I'm not gonna lie, I can't remember off the top of my head what day I got the PS5, though I'm pretty sure there's evidence which I can like track down to figure it out. So yeah, the strategy for fighting these enemies, like all these enemies are like the basic weak ones, you know, like there's not much to them, you know, there's no like heavy enemies that show up. And okay, so yeah, you see Miles is in his demon form. I love the way the silhouette looks with this like costume, you know, like this certain like style of costume. I love this outfit for Miles. I love it a lot. It's probably my favorite in the game aside from the Spider-Verse one. Like I love it to bits. But yeah, no, since I'm so overpowered as Miles, even though I don't have any damage upgrades, you know, I pretty much, just the overpowered loop thing he can do with his insta-kills and his big explosion attack, all I do is drag enemies up into the air, I punch them for a little bit, but that's optional, because most of what I do is just the insta-kills, some of my electric attacks, big explosion attack, I regain all my insta-kills, so very, very simple stuff, and also just staying in the air is good, because of the same principles with SANDMAN. And also, there's no projectile enemies when you're fighting in this demon mode here, and they're very easy enemies, so as long as you just stay in the air, drag them up, and just start hitting them, this is a very, very easy section, though to be fair, it is also a bit of a long section, you know, there's like 4 waves of enemies, so you might get tired and accidentally mess it up, and also it's a long section because of these like forced cutscenes and all that. I'm pretty sure this one you can't skip, and here I'm just kind of like a little insane. I'm like kind of nervous because, you know, I don't want to mess it up because like I'm so far into it. Like it is easy, but I really don't want to mess it up with like a slight mistake, because if you stay on the ground, you know, like an enemy might accidentally hit you, you might forget to dodge or like jump away from them. So, you know, stay in the air, you know, keep hitting the enemies that way. I'm pretty sure you can get a lot more airtime in this game compared to the previous games. So you can get a good amount of airtime in the previous games, but this one, it just feels easier to do. Like you have a lot more tools for it, I'd say, though memory might be serving me wrong on that. But yeah, no, let me talk about some other things. For one, doing this challenge definitely drove me insane. Like honestly, I think I might take a break from no damaging video games for a while until I'm not mentally ill from it. But yeah, I started like putting my ear to my PS5 controller, and what I started to realize is there's a weird ringing noise, you know, like the weird ringing where you feel like you're the only one that like, can hear it, or like that something went wrong with your ear. Like there's just a weird ringing noise with the PS5 controller, and it's probably because this game definitely like pushes the PS5's like, you know, rumble and sound features like to the test in a lot of really nice like fun ways. Honestly, like the way like the PS5 tech is like using its sound features reminds me a lot of the way the Wii remote would use like its sound features with its remote, and I really like it because I really love the Wii. The Nintendo Wii is probably like the first console which I ever owned, which was ever like, you know, my console. You know, like I've played GameCube games before at a friend's house, but the first console which was like my console was the Nintendo Wii. So I have a lot of attachment to it, and I really love that console. It's probably one of the best consoles ever. Just it's such a unique console. You know, it does have a lot of huge flaws as well, but I really love that console. I've no damaged Ice Age 2 The Meltdown on the Nintendo Wii. Watch my no damage video of that, but you know. So I'm just glad that the PS5 is kind of keeping the spirit alive. Though I am kind of sad that the PS5 controllers cost like $80. So if I want to get a new PS5 controller, it's going to cost me like a whole mortgage. But to be fair, that's also true of the Nintendo Switch. Like, you know, those little Joy-Cons that get like stiff drick cost like $70 or $60. Controllers are just expensive in general. Honestly, that's probably been true since forever, like since Xbox 360, original Xbox. Though I don't have all the facts on that. The point is, it's a lot of money. I don't want to spend that much money on controllers, but I can't just get a cheaper controller. But with a PS5 controller, since it's like stuffed with so many features, and to be fair, this is also true with the PS3 controllers because that had the whole rumble and the DualShock 3. You need to get like the original, you know, made for the console controllers. You can't be getting that third-party crap because there's some features that are like specifically made for like the really expensive stuff inside that like big old plastic controller. And now we are at the KRAVEN fight, though. There was something I wanted to mention, which I think I forgot to mention. I don't know what. Oh yeah, the weird ringing noise is just because like the PS5 controller is like using all its like its rumble and sound features. It's like always like alert. It's kind of like a dog that's like always like on guard, you know, like, you know, the position dogs do when like, you know, they're like playing with a toy and then they just suddenly stop and freeze up. That's what the PS5 controller is like constantly doing when you're playing this game. So that's probably where the weird ringing noise comes from. But anyways, here's the KRAVEN fight. And one thing you should know about these like boss fights, if you're going to restart the checkpoint of the first phase of a fight, with most of these fights, you can like pretty much die a couple times and every time you like die and, you know, take damage, it fills up like the super duper symbiote meter. And this is always true except for one specific fight, and I don't know why. So pretty much if you have like no symbiote meter at the beginning of a fight, but you're just going to like, you know, start the beginning of the fight, you know, from a checkpoint, just die a couple times to like completely fill up the symbiote meter, and then, you know, you can just use the symbiote meter at the beginning of the fight every time you reload the checkpoint where you have your symbiote meter full. And if you mess this up, because pretty much, you know, you can like lose your symbiote meter and then die without symbiote meter, so then like when you start the fight again from that game over, you don't have any symbiote meter. But, you know, if you start a game and then like die and, you know, you had full symbiote and then you wake up in that next section with a full symbiote, like, you know, meter, then just restart the checkpoint, you know, in that next part, and then you'll always have full symbiote meter. So, you know, that's a little tips and tricks. And this is also true for like Miles' big explosion thing, except for, once again, that one fight. And also in that one fight, like reloading a checkpoint wouldn't even be applicable if you want to do like a one take thing. It gets complicated. I'll probably have to explain it more there. And wow, I have not been explaining the strategy to KRAVEN at all. And also another thing I should probably explain with KRAVEN is that this is the first fight where I upgraded my damage. I upgraded it to 130%. Originally, I was going to do like 170%, but while fighting the fight, honestly, I had a little bit of sympathy and decided it was like too easy. So I decided to go with 130%, which just felt more right, and I just kind of like the flow of it better. Also, speaking of flow, this is one of the fights where like the cutscene interruptions are nowhere near as egregious as some of the other fights. You know, you have the first phase, we enter the second phase, this cutscene doesn't take too long, it introduces a new mechanic. I like it, it's a good flow. I prefer if the rest of the fights were more to this level, right? But yeah, to get back to strategy, KRAVEN, he's big and heavy, but you can still juggle him. And well, the great thing about the KRAVEN dude here, okay, so one very specific thing about the second phase in the beginning is pretty much, so stand on the ground, you know, don't like web up the thing like in the air. Honestly, I think it takes longer to web up the bell if you're shooting your web shooter like in the air. Just like stay on the ground, shoot your web shooters. He's going to ring the bell 2 times. After he rings it a second time, he's going to hone in for an attack, so just immediately be prepared to like dodge him, right? Because honestly, it could come quick, it could come slow. For me, it came very quickly after like the bell rang a second time, but you have to be alerted. And also be alert whenever like he does a big smoke phase. Sometimes he could be on the ground, sometimes he could like shoot a projectile. Like in the second phase, he become very annoying in a way that the first phase isn't. Honestly, the first phase is not that hard. However, I attempted to do this fight without any damage upgrades, but like KRAVEN is such a chunky boss fight. He has so much health. Like the game doesn't feel designed around like the game really does not feel designed around doing a no damage upgrade run. Like, you know, there just kind of comes a point, like, you know, in these like late game section where the game expects you to have some damage upgrades to like, you know, fight these fights in a reasonable amount of time. But yeah, no, in the first phase, one great thing about Kraven is that, you know, he has this thing where, like, when he doesn't want to be hit, he'll do a big, like, animation where he knocks you off of him. It's very big. Yeah, that little animation, you know, you just immediately know, get away from him, he wants to attack you. Like, some of the boss fights don't have that, so I'm just glad that Kraven does have it, and it's so, like, you know, reactable. It's great. I love it. I really like it. But my strategy is usually the same as all the other boss fights. I like to web him up. You'll know when he's webbed up. You know, you have a big animation thing. However, Kraven is also just really easy to dodge. At least in the first phase, he definitely is. Because if you stick close to him and just keep attacking him, he kind of has this, like, 3-hit attack where he goes punch, punch. And then he has, like, this thing where you can either switch between a really fast kick or a really slow kick. And you just pretty much have to learn to, like, react to it. If it's a really, like, fast kick, you can also parry it, though, you know, the other kick you can do, which is slower, you can't parry it. So instead of parrying it, I usually just dodge it because, you know, it's just more convenient for me, and, you know, whatever, like, you know, it makes the video a little bit longer, maybe a little bit more stylish, if you think that way. So, you know, I kind of just learned that 3-hit attack. You know, on the 3rd hit, I kind of react for whether it's a fast attack or a slow attack. Honestly, it's a little tough, but honestly not that tough. You can get the hang of it, you know, if you practice, practice, practice. And here, this cutscene does instantly transition into the next fight. However, I do not do the Kraven and Peter fight in one take. I do the Kraven fight in one take, and then the Peter fight is a separate fight, so I do that in one take. I do hope that's understandable, despite the fact that this cutscene does, like, you know, smoothly transition to the next fight. However, this is not a one cutscene in the sense that, like, I actually edited, like, pretty much I did this fight. I got, like, the first half of this cutscene, then I went to the pause menu to, like, create a manual save, so that every time I loaded that save, it would start from, like, this cutscene, and then I edited, like, those two footages together to make it look, like, seamless, because it is the same cutscene. So, you know, you won't notice any editing or, like, hitches or whatnot when I pretty much stitch these two cutscenes together because they're the same cutscene. But yeah, no, what I mean by the manual saves is that the way I, like, you know, do these videos is whenever I reach the cutscene which introduces the boss fight, I'll pretty much manually save during that cutscene. So every time you load that save, you pretty much load the beginning of that cutscene, and that's pretty much how I load into these boss fights every time. And, you know, for some of the later fights, every time I start those cutscenes, like, I'll record the cutscene just so I can have it as footage, and then I'll, like, you know, restart from, like, the last checkpoint for the first phase. And then, you know, I think you know the rest by now. You know the story. Alright, so here we're at the acclaimed Big Peter fight where Peter goes crazy and drinks the big juice, and now we have to, like, beat him up because Peter thinks that a man gotta do what a man gotta do, alright? We gotta put him down. But how you put him down? He's a very tricky fight. Pretty much whenever he's open for a combo, it's never like a full 4-hit combo most of the time. A lot of the time, you'll do 3 hits, and on the 4th hit, he'll, like, retaliate and push you off. Thankfully, he does have a push-off animation. But yeah, no, he can do a lot of really tricky stuff, and, you know, the game, I think, really wants you to parry him, but me, I do not like dealing with this guy's attacks. They come out very quickly, and I probably say that the reason a lot of these attacks come out very quickly is because a lot of them are based on the player animations when you're playing as Peter. So, like, you've used these attacks, you know what they look like, and now they're being used against you. But usually when you're fighting a boss fight that is just you know, like the previous character you were playing as, like, the attacks come out super fast because they're designed to be fast because they're the attacks you use. You know, like, if you're using, like, a boss fight's attacks and they're kind of slowish, they won't feel as good to play. Like, usually the boss fight moves slower than, like, your player animations. Though there are exceptions to that, but yeah, no. I do not want to stay close to Peter because Peter is constantly going to be doing some weird animation that will, like, mess me up. So I like to either stun him, keep my distance, you know, like, just do whatever I need to do. And in the first phase, I did avoid using, like, any gadgets unless I got, like, a bonus gadget, like, you know, a bonus gadget. I don't know how the bonus gadget, like, RNG works in this game, but it is always a lifesaver, especially in some of the later fights where spamming, like, you know, the bell, like, is super useful. When you get, like, the Sonic Blast, when you get that bonus gadget update, it's, like, pretty much, like, a free 2, like, full combos to, like, do on the boss fight. Oh yeah, and something you really do want to do is that when you shoot out your little electric bomb thing, you can throw the bomb at the bell to stun Peter. However, don't do that, like, too, like, seguido. That's a word in Spanish. I don't know if I even said it right, but basically don't be too continuous with, like, spamming the bell, because once you use the bell once, there's, like, a period of time where you can't use it again. So pretty much like you'll throw the electric bomb, you'll throw it at the bell, you'll stun Peter. Once Peter's like stopped being stunned, if you try to like throw your electric bomb at the bell again, it's not going to work. Like you'll throw it at the bell, but it won't really make any noise. You kind of have to like wait a little bit. I don't know exactly how it works, it just can't be done like instantly, like one after the other. Again, I just really wish I could be more elaborate in explaining like how this guy's attacks work, what you want to watch out for, but like I've been saying this entire video, I kind of follow a bit of the same strategy with each fight. I just kind of like slightly change it up depending on like the boss fights, like little quirks. For one, I definitely do not like to stay close to Peter because Peter does have a habit of doing like kind of predictable attacks, but if you spend too much time being close to him, he'll try to do like a normal symbiote combo and it comes out very fast and I have a hard time reacting to it. So I just kind of play keep away, web him up. Webbing him up still works. However, sometimes he'll try to web you up. And yeah, in the start of the final phase, he does that attack, which I hate. It kind of has a habit of just honing in on you. And also in the second phase, he has an attack that has a lot of like reach. So you like, even if you're in the air in the second phase, you still have to like dodge that attack. You know, you have to like be on the lookout for it. Oh yeah, one useful tactic is that when you're in the air and spamming Web Blast, time slows down slightly. So you can do that. Honestly, I kind of make use of this in some of the later fights, just to kind of keep track of what attacks are happening in that later fight, but that is a very specific situation, but honestly, this tactic works for any real fight. You know, just stay up in the air, shoot a couple web blasts, and while time is slowed down, it gives you a little bit more time to react to whatever the hell the boss fight's going to throw at you. And I want to just say a couple unrelated things to the fight. Sometimes, like, the Spider-Man 2, since I did get it at launch, does have a tendency to crash occasionally. But also, it tends to crash like right after I spent like 10 hours like trying to no damage one fight and I haven't succeeded yet. It'll usually crash around then. Like, there wasn't a single point where I was playing Spider-Man 2 and it crashed at like an inconvenient time. You know, like the crashes never ruined anything for me, like thankfully. It's just that the game did crash if I was like busy like no damaging one boss fight with like to no avail after like 10 hours or whatnot. You know, like I'm really like pushing my PS5 to its limits, like running this game for so long. And you'll learn fully what I mean by running this game for so long, because I really did run it for quite a while. Yeah, no, like my thoughts right now are a little bit scattered. This is my second day of recording commentary. Like the first hour and 5 minutes I recorded like in a day, and now the rest of it I'm recording right now on the second day. But another thing I want to mention, which will be important for my discussion of the final boss, is that in Spider-Man 1 and Miles Morales, you could map the charge jump, you know, like the jump which you have to charge, to like the D-pad. So if you like map the charge jump to the D-pad, you can actually like skip charging it and just jump really high with no build-up. And that helped me quite a bit with Miles Morales. I didn't even like think to do it in like Spider-Man 1, but someone recommended me to like do it with Miles Morales, so I did do that. However, when this game first came out, Spider-Man 2, if you mapped the charge jump to like the D-pad, you just did a normal jump, like it was like messed up. However, in a patch that came out around November 1st, they actually fixed it so you do a full charge jump when you map it to the D-pad. So honestly, I'm really glad like I did not finish no damaging this game before November 1st, because my entire strategy with the final boss revolves around charge jumping, and specifically the charge jump you do with the shortcut, because actually like building it up every single time, I don't even know if that's like possible with the strategy I was running. Like I needed that to be instantaneous. And honestly, maybe I should have like spammed more instantaneous charge jumps some of these earlier fights. It would have made them easier, but it gives my video a little bit more variety to like have these different modes of combat. But speaking of modes of combat, this is probably the easiest combat in the game. Pretty much like Venom's moveset is very limited, which is a little disappointing, but also it's limited in a way that makes him like very imposing. Like Venom plays in the way that the game wants you to play for most of this game, while Spider-Man, you can mess around, jump around, stun enemies, while here, like when you're playing as Venom, it's like back to basics, you know, like you will parry, you will attack when the enemy is open, you know, it's all about parrying and attacking. Like you can't jump around, web him up, because Venom doesn't have any of those like options, he doesn't have any gadgets. The entire fight is about parrying and hitting the enemy back. However, one good concession with this like final KRAVEN fight is that the parry window is absurd. You don't have to time it. Like one thing with like the new parry mechanic is that you actually have to time it when you're playing as Spider-Man, because if you time it too early, you'll just block the attack, but you'll take damage and the enemy won't be stunned. Here, you can just spam the parry to like, and just always parry him 100%, you know, like stun him if it's like the finale of his combo. I mean, yeah, and like that still applies here. You know, if you just parry the first hit of like a 3-hit combo, he won't be stunned, but you can still just spam. I'm just like spamming it. Like there's no precise timing to any of these like parries. So in the first phase, like, you know, whenever he becomes invisible or whatnot, just like wait for him to like appear, and the split second he appears, just spam the parry button, and then boom, you're just hitting him up. Now this fight is still a little bit annoying, especially when like instead of doing like kind of like a slow attack or an attack which I know how to like, you know, react to, he'll just do like a quick spear attack. So right now I'm just kind of like spamming the parry button just willy-nilly, hoping that like, you know, it does parry the attack. And those red bombs can be very annoying. In the first phase, you should pick up the bombs and throw it at him, but in the second phase, KRAVEN does a very dirty trick where he'll throw like that red explosion bomb and then immediately start attacking you with the spear. So if you try to pick up that bomb in the second phase, he'll just stab you while you're picking it up. While in the first phase, it's not so bad. You can just pick it up, throw it at him, you know, kind of stun him a little bit. Also, this fight has a bit of an annoying arena. Thankfully, the fire doesn't damage you, despite the fact that Venom canonically, like in the comics, has a weakness to fire. In this game, the game director, I think, actually like just went online and said, yeah, we made Venom like invulnerable to fire just because it's cool. And honestly, it is very cool, and I'm very glad they made that decision, because I do not want to deal with more like environmental hazards. Because in the first Spider-Man, in the Kingpin fight, if you got close to fire, you took damage. In Miles Morales, that was not the case, and here it is also not the case. I'm very glad for that. But yeah, no, so you don't have to worry about the fire at all. But there is something kind of annoying about this arena, where if you get too close to like the edges of it, KRAVEN will just always counter you. Even if you like stun him with a parry, he'll just immediately like knock you off with his knockoff animation, because he wants to fight you in the middle of the arena, not the ends of the arena. So you can't really like, you know, play in an exciting way. You kind of have to like wait for KRAVEN to come to you, because if you get too excitable and start running at KRAVEN when he's at the edge of an arena, it's just gonna be like a little game of he's a rock, I'm a rock, you know, like immovable rock, unstoppable force, you know. It's just very, very annoying gameplay. But overall, this fight is kind of a neat little breather compared to like the other KRAVEN fights. You know, you just kind of learn his parry timings, you hit him a couple times, and then boom, he's down for the count, and he's going to die in this cutscene. Here, take a look. So here we're being slammed into the next fight, and before it begins, I'd like to summarize why I hate KRAVEN's arena. So like, KRAVEN's spikes are super annoying and ruin your combo number, because like if you're too good at the game, like suddenly he'll be in a corner with spikes. You kind of have to gamble whether you want to take chip damage or not. I mean, you could web him up and pull him out of there if you have the right upgrades, but sometimes he'll do his electric mine attack right before you like pull him out. So when you pull him out of there, it'll be too late to like escape the electric mines. Like, I hate that arena. It's probably not my least favorite in the game, but like I despise that arena a lot, because my least favorite arena goes to this fight with Scream. So now there's no environmental hazards. However, if you pull her like way too like, you know, close to like a corner, or like take her too high up in the air, like if you just push Scream here like past this bus, the game has put like an invisible wall there, but not a wall. Pretty much just like it like auto directs you out of there, so like it can ruin a lot of your combos. You know, you'll be beating the fuck out of this like Scream person, you know, like Scream, the condiment devil here, you know, wearing her signature like ketchup and mustard coating, and suddenly like your combo will be interrupted because the game doesn't want you to go out of bounds, so it just pulls you back in. Like there's that insta-kill attack, right? Like the one where, like, you know, if you have two heat gauges, you can do that little insta-kill attack. If you do it while you go out of bounds, like, you'll do the entire animation, but you'll deal no damage because you'll get pulled out of there, like, you know, just disingenuously. I hate it. Like, why make a combat system?
And what you're doing, this isn't control!
You're completely right, Spider-Man. Like, the game takes control away from you if you get too crazy with this boss fight. Like, I'd honestly would just prefer an actual invisible wall be there instead of this, like, out of bounds, like, recorrection bullshit they have going during this fight. You know, it's like, the PS5 can't handle this arena being, like, the entire map, so they have to, like, seclude it to this little neighborhood. I just hate the way they do it. Considering, like, they made a combat system that gives you so much control in, like, pulling this, like, you know, villain in so many different directions. You can web them up, pull them up, you know, all the, like, your big super moves, like, you know, your gadgets, your, like, spider legs, like, you know, that stuff. Like, you can't really do this attack if the boss fight is, like, too close to the edge of the arena. Just, I hate it a lot. But as for actually fighting this boss fight, I also hate her projectiles. Like, her projectiles have a really annoying property where, like, if you're trying to web her up and if she's in the middle doing a projectile attack, she'll just ignore the webs and just shoot the projectile. So if you spend all your web shooters on webbing her up, but she's in the middle of a projectile attack, just like, you did not stun her. Like, you have to avoid the projectiles in order to keep your combo going. However, I will say one good thing about this fight. Okay, the fight by itself is good, you know, it's like challenging and epic. It's just a little bit glitchy in areas because of this out of bounds nonsense. But it is a very challenging, cool, fun fight. It keeps you engaged. And also, like, emotionally, it's very powerful and potent because, like, MJ just goes off because she has, like, this evil, like, condiment, like, venom going through her skin and bones and all that. But one thing is, in this fight, I actually do manage to do a full combo. What's a full combo? It's pretty much when you, from start to end, you just keep comboing the boss fight and it never gets interrupted. So you get, like, a really high number by the end. The number I get at the end of this one is around 400 because, oh yeah, by the way, at this point in time, I have max damage. So I've upgraded myself to have max damage, which honestly for this fight I think was the right move because I could not imagine doing this fight with, like, no damage upgrades. It would take, like, forever. It would take, like, 1,000 hits to, like, put her down, which I just would be unbearable. Like, it takes 405 to put her down throughout these 4 phases with max damage, so, like, imagine anything less. Also, in the previous Peter fight, I had like 130 damage, just like with the KRAVEN fight. I kind of kept it consistent. But yeah, no. In the first phase, I don't use any gadgets. In the second phase, I think I kind of keep it to just like a few specific gadgets which aren't that useful. And once we reach this third phase, I'm going to start, like, using more of my gadgets, using some more of the useful gadgets, just really getting in there. By the fourth phase, she will have the most health. Not too much. No, she will have the most health by the fourth phase, but yeah. I really want to be more, like, direct with how I talk about how to fight these fights, but I really don't know how to. In the beginning, she kind of has this one attack where it's like a 3-hitter, so you kind of have to watch out with that. In the third phase, her attacks become a little bit more experimental. She can get, like, longer reaching, like, hair attacks, so you kind of have to, like, be careful about that because she could really mess you up with some of those, like, long-range hair attacks. See, like, right here, I'm in a situation where I can't get too crazy with this fight because she's right in the corner. So I kind of have to wait for her to fall to the ground, you know, very boring. Like yeah, yeah, no, like, she does these little hair attacks. She has, like, a whole little, like, 3-hit combo. Be careful about that. But one thing I really love to do in this fight is, okay, so, like, the spider, like, extra spider legs do help a lot, but there's, like, one specific spider leg. It's the one where, like, you know, you kind of pull her in and launch her to the air. What I like to do is do, like, a 3-hit combo, web her up while I'm in the air, and if you're lucky, she'll be fully welled up. So you can just pull her up in the air again, do another, like, 3-hit combo, and then from there, just kind of chain it into whatever you have available. You know, if you have a gadget available you want to use, if one of your other powers, like, you know, reloaded, you can do all that. Also, once you're fully upgraded with your gadgets, the little, like, spider dash one you do also, like, webs her up, so you have, like, a free combo after you do, like, the little spider dash and it lands. Also, this fight, since you got rid of your symbiote and you don't have, like, your, like, anti-venom symbiote yet, you have no symbiote powers. So this fight is also tougher just because of that. And while I did get a full combo with this fight, it's because I got really lucky. Like, look, I got a bonus gadget. Like, the bonus gadgets come in incredibly clutch during this fight, and I got a good number of bonus gadgets while fighting her. So, you know, like, this fight, it's like a mix of skill, it's a mix of luck. Also, when it comes to like the Sonic Blast ability, once that's fully upgraded, also it's true with the Concussion Blast, but when it's a Concussion Blast, it's not as useful as when it's a Sonic Blast and when you're fighting symbiotes. But with the Sonic Blast, you know, you'll shoot one, and then like 3 others will be like placed around the arena. And something I did here by accident is that, so yeah, see, I'm like too close to the edge, so I can't really do anything, so the game has to autocorrect. If I try to like chase her and like web her down there, the game will just autocorrect me to be in the middle of the arena again. Like, I hate it. Also, this stun ability is amazing. It kind of keeps her stunned for another full combo, so that one's really great. But yeah, no, one really great thing you can do is that you can kind of stand close to one of the Sonic Blasts, you know, like web her up. I think I'm going to do it right now. See, I'm going to web her up. So I kind of dodge a little projectiles. Once she's done with that, pull her into the Sonic Blast to get another free Sonic Blast. So that's really great. And the game rewards me by giving me a bonus gadget slot. Like, that's just incredible. And now, like, my spider legs have already, like, loaded in, so the fight is pretty much over, done with. Boom, a full 405 hit combo. Maybe I should upload this fight specifically just by itself, because, like, that is a full combo. Like, more people have to see that. But, you know, I'm really proud of my attempt, though this fight brought me a lot of pain. Just because, like, I thought max power was going to make it a cakewalk. It was absolutely not a cakewalk. The game was 100% prepared for me to have max power. But you know what? Like, I mean, I guess I love seeing this attempt. I just, like, it took a lot of work, a lot of grind, but I was able to pull it off. And hopefully some of the things I said are useful for you fighting this, like, fight. And I completely ignored parrying her because I was just not going to deal with that nonsense. Honestly, like, just my brain was like too damaged while playing this game. I did not want to like deal with learning parry timings. Like, good lord, no, not with this fight. So, you know, I did it my own way. It came out great. Got a full combo, and I'm happy with it. I'm really happy with this attempt. I say attempt as in this isn't like the successful one. Like, this isn't the attempt. This is like the attempt, right? Anyways, here are some fun facts about Spider-Man 2. So, the cutscene where Spider-Man faces off against KRAVEN in the church is unskippable. Now, mind you, on my ultimate playthrough, I mean, I played this game the first time on its first difficulty, Spectacular, and then I did a second playthrough on Ultimate, which is the difficulty where I'm no damaging these boss fights on, and since there is no New Game Plus, I'm doing it from a new game. So here, this is a nothing fight, don't worry, you can pretty much figure out what to do just by looking at the footage. Honestly, I shouldn't even have included it, but whatever. Also, the cutscene where Miles visits his like father's grave is unskippable. Also, the cutscene when you start the Lizard boss fight mission where, you know, he calls Harry, that cutscene is unskippable. Also, this game kind of has a thing where sometimes when it, like, cuts to, like, a new angle from, like, a cutscene, like, the first frame will be unskippable, but once it goes into, like, the next frame, like the next shot, then it's skippable. The cutscenes kind of have, like, a weird buffering thing with that. Also, in this game, you can skip the puzzles, and on my ultimate playthrough, that is exactly what I did, because, like, these puzzles, like, just like the first game, are, like, these big pace killers for me. You know, it's like, oh, let me just play a little bit of Minesweeper just randomly to, like, you know, break up the pace. Like, man, get out of here. But then I reached the side quest where I tried to skip the puzzle, and it didn't allow me, even though I had, like, the simplified puzzle option on. This fight is also pretty self-explanatory, not much to explain here. So, you know, I started doing this puzzle normally, and then suddenly I'm interrupted by an enemy trying to attack me. That's probably why I couldn't skip the puzzle. Like, it was kind of scripted for me to, like, try to do the puzzle, and then the enemy attacked me. Because once I, you know, finished that little enemy encounter and returned to the puzzle, then I could skip it. And also, by the way, I went for 100%ing this game, and I did 100% this game. I did get the plat, but before I did that, I quickly found out that some of the achievements are going to be a bit of a pain in the ass if you don't do them before you complete every activity in the game. For example, getting a certain amount of webline stealth takedowns is a lot harder when you already did every single hunter base and basically got to the point where there's like 0 stealth available to you. Like, you can't stealth the symbiotes that appear in, like, the random crimes. However, one achievement, which I thought was going to be a bit annoying, but wasn't as annoying as I was expecting it to be, was taking out a certain number of enemies with the evolved Venom abilities. I thought it was going to be annoying because, like, the only enemies I could face off against were the ones that appeared in random street crimes, since I already completed all the other activities at that point and didn't get the achievement. Like, by this point, I had 100% in the game, but I didn't have the Platinum, you know, like the Sony PS5 Platinum. However, you can replay the Mysteriums with Miles, and knocking out the enemies there with, like, your expanded Venom does count towards the achievement, so that's pretty much how I got it. Also, I thankfully had, like, a previous save file, so I could just kind of load an old save, pretty much do stealthing for one of the bases until I got the Slackline achievement, and then boom, that's how I got the Platinum for Spider-Man 2. And it only took me 126 hours. Yeah, that's pretty much where I clock out of this game. Mind you, most of those hours, once again, just come from me repeating these no damage attempts over and over and over. And Venom was no slouch for this. And Venom was like no slouch for this. It took me like 2 days to no damage this fight. I kind of had to come up with a strategy of my own because I didn't really like the strategies other people use for this fight, because Venom does kind of restrict you. You can't juggle him. You can't really web him up. He's immune to webbing. However, another property of webbing, which is useful, which is why I still do it in this fight, is that when you web up an enemy, it like slowly builds up your heat gauge. So you know you can get closer and closer to like building up your insta kill move just by webbing up the enemy, even though Venom is still impervious to like webbing. So here, I decided to kind of do those attacks, do those Venom abilities, and once you deal that certain amount of damage, he pretty much does the big attack where you have to like go to another field. And I go to this field because I can like pretty much activate the sound thing to stun him. So you know, my entire strategy is I wait for Venom to kind of get close to me, I do a charge jump, and then by that point he'll be doing an attack. You still kind of have to learn the timing of his attacks because you do have to know the exact right timing for when you want to go down there. He usually has like these 3-hit attacks. However, he has these variations of attacks where it could be 3 hits or 4 hits. And on the 4th hit, he can kind of do this like crush attack, which isn't really an attack, where he can kind of just pull you in. I think I might do it right now. Yep, like that. Okay, he was getting kind of close to doing that attack, but he didn't do it in the end. And thankfully, I do get hit by that like pull-in attack every now and then, and I'm just very glad that attack does like no damage. However, once he pulls you in, he does immediately try to do like one very big attack. So, you know, if you get pulled in by that, what I like to do is just spam charge jump again to like dodge him, because dodging him see, he does it, boom, I just charge jump again. I have it as a shortcut. So if the game did not patch this so that the charge jump shortcut didn't work, then I would have been screwed with this fight. I don't know how I would have done it. It probably would have taken me 3 days instead of 2. Also, for no damaging this game, I kind of followed a workout regimen. I think I started doing this with like the lizard fight because I was getting so annoyed. You know, like if I'm going to spend like 3 to 4 days and like not succeed, I'm not going to accept that. Like, you know, I'm going to get something out of this arrangement. So what I started doing is, every time I failed the fight, I did push-ups. Like I started at like 20 push-ups, and when I got too tired to do 20 push-ups, I did 10 push-ups. And over the course of me no damaging this game, some days I'd just be doing like over 100 push-ups, like no sweat. A little bit of sweat, but honestly, that kind of got to a point where it was like no sweat. You know, like I mean, if I'm going to like no damage as Spider-Man, I'm gonna get as built as Spider-Man. And to be fair, maybe I should have like varied it more besides just push-ups. But you know, like push-ups is my specialty. All right, like I know how to do push-ups, and I got a good workout session out of like no damaging this game. Aside from just damaging the brain, I healed the body. Let's just say that. I healed the world if I consider the world my own strength, per se. I hope that metaphor makes sense somehow. So in the first phase, I didn't use any gadgets because I'm completely saving them for the second phase, where Venom decides to summon the most annoying enemies in the game, the Kiwami Venoms. Look at these green Kiwami Venoms. They're terrible. Like, honestly, I think like the later half of the game, like the enemies are just not fun to fight. Like, these symbiotes suck. Anyways, I got kind of stuck on the outside of the arena because one of my anti-venom abilities just kind of sent me there. It doesn't damage you at all, and in fact, the game auto-corrects you to just jump back into the arena. This arena, I really love this arena. It looks great. You know, it's like very climactic. It's like, you know, it's where Peter and Harry became friends, but it's all destroyed by the Venom. I love this arena. You know, the rain, super cinematic stuff going on. But pretty much the strategy is you save all your gadgets for the second phase, and then you can use every single gadget in the second phase, because by the third phase, all your gadgets will be refilled because you're playing as a completely different character for the third and fourth phase. Mind you, I did like all 4 phases in one take. Mind you, that was very annoying because like some of these stuff which Venom pulls, because first you have to learn how Venom works in the first and second phase, and then in the third and fourth phase, it kind of works a little differently. But yeah, no. Pretty much like Venom goes into this weird phase where you have to like only use your anti-venom attack to like destroy his little like halo shield or whatever. So what you do is, instead of like attacking the green Kiwami Venoms, because the Kiwami Venoms, the reason they're annoying is because they're designed in a way where like in order to defeat them, you just have to not have fun with the game. Either you need to use your resources, which are limited, you know, like the gadgets to like take them out, or you web them up because they have low health, and like webbing them up a little bit and they're close to a wall, they'll like get destroyed. And also just webbing them up like builds up like your venom abilities, your anti-venom abilities. You know, use some gadgets, use some webs, so you pretty much save all your gadgets to pretty much use them on the green Kiwamis, and also you use the Sonic Blast on Venom to get more combos in there. And what you want to do is you don't want to use your insta-kills on the Kiwami Venoms, even though it is very tempting, because you pretty much want to have like your 2 heat gauges like filled in order to like insta-kill Venom after you do the big cinematic like electricity thing you do with him once you like take down his Halo shield. Because like immediately after you can do an insta-kill. I also did this like the first time he pulled up like this little Venom Halo shield. So yeah, no, like once you have like an insta-kill ready, you can pretty much just, the fight, this second phase is pretty much done. It is just a bunch of like cinematic like padding, which it looks dope. I love Venom here, look at the little animation. I love it. It's, I don't know how they did that, but like it looks great. Like I don't know if it's a motion blur or anything like that. Also, I did not turn off the motion blur or the film grain just because like, like some people like really complain when like an HD collection of like a PS2 game removes like motion blur, so I feel like it would be a little weird for me to like remove motion blur when it's like an intended part of like the visual look of the game. Like it does make things a little blurry, it does kind of make it a little hard to like screenshot, but you know, maybe like somehow it makes the game more satisfying to play, but I'd have to do further research on that. But like when the Devil May Cry HD collection came out and like removed motion blur and a bunch of other little like nice details from the PS2 games, people were like righteously mad about that. Even though my Devil May Cry 1 no damage, I did it with the Switch version, which has all the same visual issues as the previous HD collections. Honestly, Venom is not the most annoying fight in the game. Like honestly, I was expecting like the transitions between phases to be more annoying, because when I first played him, you know, my normal like spectacular playthrough, you know, I was like, wow, when I have to no damage this, I'm gonna hate it. And honestly, I kind of did end up hating it, but nowhere near as much as the Lizard. I had more trouble with the Lizard than I did with Venom. Like the Lizard took me like 4 days. Venom like took me not too long, because it's like the transition between phase 1 and 2 isn't too long. The transition between phase 2 and 3 is a little longer, but like the first 1 and 2 phases kind of feel like their own fight, and then you get to like the 3rd phase with Miles, and it's just like this cutscene is nowhere near as egregious as the transitions between the Lizard fight. Mind you, the Lizard fight had you doing that whole little like chase sequence that kind of felt like a bunch of padding between the combat sections, while here you just have one long cutscene and then boom, you're in the combat section. Though it was still kind of annoying having to learn like Venom's like unique properties in this fight. He now has a flying phase. These wings look sick as hell. Like he looks sick as hell. You know, he's like more muscular now. I love that. Fun fact, so you know how this game has like Spider-Verse suits, and when you put on the Spider-Verse suit, like the frame rate like, you know, lowers to kind of mimic the style of the movie. That like lowering frame rate ability pretty much works with what I believe is every single suit in the game. However, when you're playing as Venom, you know, like the mission where you play as Venom, if you turn on that option, it does not affect Venom like at all. I don't know if this is going to get patched or not, or if they even want to patch it, but no matter like what option you turn on, Venom will not be affected by the comic book animation. He's always going to move at like 60 FPS or 30 FPS if you're playing with like the visual fidelity mode.
Go, Miles, I've got him. Go!
So, you know, I'm just eternally grateful that like your gadgets are fully filled up like by the time the 3rd phase hits, because if like if it didn't work like this fight would be a lot harder and have to pretty much rework most of it in a much different way, and also the first couple phases would probably take longer. Like these fights kind of feel like they take a long time, these phases, but they really don't take that long. Like the first phase takes like 2 minutes something, the second phase also takes around 2 minutes something. And the Miles phases are easier just because you're playing as Miles and have access to the electricity things, which just like have full iframes when you use them, except for the punch. That like super Shoryuken like punch thing which Miles can do, it looks awesome, but it's just not as useful as the other abilities, because the other abilities you can just kind of throw them out on a whim. Like the punch, you actually have to like, you know, plan like how you want to do that ability, because if you throw it out at the wrong time, you're just not going to hit him because it doesn't hone in on him. You have to kind of be close to him, and also if you're in the air and you're above him, you won't go like under him to hit him, you know, you'll just miss. Mind you, when you miss this ability, most of the time it doesn't like get, you know, wasted. You can like use it again until you hit the opponent. But still, I don't like it. I've messed up many times because I misused that Shoryuken ability, and then boom, have to repeat the entire second phase again. And yeah, no, the big instantaneous like D-pad charge jump comes in very handy for this phase. Also, something I like to do is that with that red rock, it's a little inconsistent. Like, pretty much you have to kind of have to react to the red rock, you know, like pretty much grab it when it appears. However, I sometimes have grabbed it and the thing still hits me. Like the full grabbing animation thing like will happen, but it just hits me instead of me throwing it at Venom. So what I like to do is instead of just grabbing it, I dodge it and then grab it. Sometimes when you do this, you'll have the misfortune of you'll dodge it and then like by the time you've grabbed it, it's gone and you don't have access to it. And that bonus gadget came in clutch. So yeah, no, for this first phase, I use all my gadgets except for the Sonic Blast. And the reason for that is because the final phase of this fight is going to give you like 3 free Sonic Blasts just in the arena that you can just throw at him. So if you save your Sonic Blast, you pretty much will have a combined total of 5 of them, plus the extra ones that get thrown out when you shoot one of your own. So you really have more like 8 or 9 available, though depending on how the fight goes. So yeah, no, Venom, just like his attacks, I definitely want to like stay away from. So I pretty much am just abusing my gadgets, abusing my abilities to deal the most damage. His flying phase is probably the easiest, but he can still be dangerous during this phase. Especially with like his like melee attacks when he tries to like hone in on you and grab you. I failed a couple of attempts because of that. And also when he like does a little bit the big symbiote punch. Spam the dodge button during these because like Miles will like kind of, it won't be an auto dodge, but if you spam the dodge button, like, you know, you won't lose airtime if he's like consistently attacking you. Also, a good way to keep your combo going is just if you do a perfect dodge. Or just, I don't even know if the dodge has to be perfect, but if you dodge the boss fight's attacks, that builds up your combo meter. That's how you're able to do a full combo. Even if you don't get to attack the enemy like consistently, you just consistently attack and dodge their attacks. That like builds up your combo. Now, I am not going to get a full combo on Venom. I just messed it up right now. So yeah, whenever he does that big attack where he like, you know, shoots the big webby symbiote things at you, boom, the charge jump is super useful. Because if you try to do a normal jump over that thing, it's going to hit you. So honestly, even if you don't use like the D-pad shortcut version of the charge jump, still do the charge jump to like avoid that attack. It's like the best way to go about it. Also, you can map a lot of other interesting things to like the D-pad. You know, you can really shortcut most of the abilities in the game, but one interesting thing you can shortcut is turning the game speed to 30. I kind of checked this out to see if there was any like use to it, and really it's just more of a, if you can't react fast enough to stuff, you know, you have speed 30, but it doesn't really make you better at the game. And honestly, if I use this ability, this video would be about 50, just, it would be like twice as long because everything would be at like 30 speed. And also the 30 speed ability is good just for like looking at the animations in a more intricate manner. So yeah, another thing is that once he's done doing these little fire attacks, once he's done with that, he's open to attack. However, he can be a little bit inconsistent with this sometimes. He's very scary in this phase. And yeah, see, like just keep spamming the dodge button because he's going to keep doing it. And, you know, as long as he keeps doing it, then, and it comes out very fast, so just spamming the dodge button pretty much works for that. And right now I'm trying to like maintain airtime, kind of failing a little bit. And here I'm able to use my abilities. I have an insta-kill. However, if you have an insta-kill, do not hone in on Venom, because sometimes something you can do with like the earlier boss fights is that you can hone in on them and the boss fight will just knock you off instead of like doing an attack. But Venom, if you hone in on him, he'll just attack you. So you have to wait for him to be done with the attack. You kind of have to respect the boss fight before you do the insta-kill. So only do the insta-kills if you're like in a safe position. Also, the big mega explosion electric blast, which Miles can do, only do that if you're at a safe distance. And now the fight is over. Like, pretty much most of the cutscenes which happen in this fight happen after the fight, and I decided to kind of include them because a lot of the other no damage videos also include them. So pretty much, yeah, no, here's like the 9 minutes of just the ending of the Venom fight. I also decided to include them because there is still like player input kind of required, though I don't know if it's like fully forced, where we're gonna have like some QTE sections in like these next couple fights where you just kind of spam the attack button so Peter could do like a cool punching animation. And then there's like a contextual like button press that's like very emotional near the end of this cutscene. But yeah, no, like I might be wrapping it up, but there's a few other things I want to talk about with this game. Actually, I'm a little bit surprised that throughout this commentary, I have not once mentioned Miles' whack-ass suit that he's wearing during this fight. I kind of hate that the game forces you to wear this suit for this confrontation. I don't really hate the suit. Honestly, like the design of it is kind of cool, like the blue colors and all that. The fucking shoes are a big turn-off point. Like, what the fuck is wrong with his like shoe wear, man? And also just like the hair sticking out of like the head. It's kind of a neat idea. In fact, the second Spider-Verse movie kind of had a similar motif going on, with one of its Spider-Men, but just here it just looks off. I don't know, it just kind of looks like an unfinished model. It looks like the hair is clipping through the mask. I just feel like there should be like another detail. I mean, a headband might be like too silly, but just like something extra to like just make that like flow better. But as for the actual design, it's kind of neat, but it being like a final suit for like the final boss of the game that you're forced to use and you can't use any other suit, I don't like it that much, but it is kind of neat. Maybe in the next game, I like to see like an evolution of it that just looks less weird, just less out there. In fact, when Miles takes off his mask, I think he looks better. Like, just like him in this suit without the mask, I think is a great look. But just him with the mask and the hair sticking out like that, it's very bad. It's very awkward. I don't like it. I don't know, like I'm sure someone's very passionate about the design and it probably like means something to them, but it's a bit of a miss, not gonna lie. Honestly, and it just kind of shows up out of nowhere, you know, because it's like, oh, it's time for a Miles original. His suit's already a Miles original. Like, oh, let me just ignore the Spider-Man motifs to kind of do more of my thing. Like, it's just, it doesn't work for me. It kind of comes out of nowhere. And even Peter's reaction to it is like a little stilted. He's like, it looks good, Miles. It looks good. Mind you, he was kind of going through a little bit of a depressive state when he was saying that. You know, like the full context of the cutscene does make it like make more sense. But you know, it's been memed a lot. It just kind of fits because wow, that suit is just not great. As for Peter's anti-Venom suit, it is kind of neat, but once again, I would have preferred if the game gave me the option to use the black Sam Raimi suit, because I barely got to use it in this video. I only got to use it for, what, 3 fights? Wraith, and then every single other fight forced me to use the symbiote suit, the black one. And then Scream, I got to use the black Sam Raimi suit. Was that even 3 fights? No, wait. There was another fight that I got to use the black Sam Raimi suit for. No, there wasn't. That's pretty much it. Like, I was forced to use the Sam Raimi suit, what, a total of 2 times? Yeah, 2 times, just for, like, the Wraith and the Scream boss fight. The only time I got to use the black Sam Raimi suit was against women. What is the game saying with that? You know, that's some targeted, like, that's some targeted commentary right there. So, Insomniac, what do you have to say about that, huh? Like, you know, what's going on? Anyways, here's something unrelated. So, this game, Spider-Man 2, has an extensive selection of accessibility features, some of which change the way the game looks. That's why my spider sense is purple. Like, I changed it to be purple because I think it's a cool color. I'm not sure if I repeated that before. If I said it before, I'm just going to repeat it again. I think it's a cool color. I changed it to be purple. Like, I don't really need this option, but I'm just glad I have access to it, so my spider sense isn't some lame white color. You know, you feel me? Also, I just love the customization. You know, I love being able to customize, like, the color of the spider sense. I wish I could, like, customize more stuff in the game. I haven't really played with it too much. In fact, some people have like customized these options to kind of make the game look like a Spider Noir game. You know, just like, it's done for accessibility and the people that need that benefit from that, but the people who don't need the accessibility features can still benefit from them by just being able to like mess around with them, like make the game look kind of weird and kooky. On the topic of this, given that the Insomniac Spider-Man games are some of like the leading like, you know, trendsetters in including the most accessibility features out of any AAA game, I don't think it's that crazy to include a side quest where you play as like a deaf chick, you know, like a slice of life one where she puts graffiti on the wall. Some people have been making a stink about that, and it's stupid. A lot of it is kind of like fueled by bigotry or whatever, but going beyond that, I just feel like it fits this series of games. Given that, like, you know, if they're shoving accessibility into the settings menus, it's probably going to show up in the game's story, and in the context of Spider-Man, this game, I think it fits, because Spider-Man is a neighborhood hero, so for one of the side quests can be a neighborhood story. There's a neighborhood story right there. So, it was alright, though, I'm not gonna lie. Was Haley ever introduced in one of the previous games? Because I feel like, it feels like she got introduced in this game. She's like a brand new character which came out of nowhere, but maybe she showed up in Miles Morales in like a side quest or something, but I didn't do all the side quests in Miles Morales, so I missed that part completely. Just, it feels like she's brand new in this game. It kind of got a similar feeling to when Spider-Man Homecoming came out, and, you know, like, Peter had no relationship with MJ, and then Spider-Man Far From Home came out, and it's like, oh, I love MJ, I love MJ. It felt so weird and out of place. I kind of got a similar feeling here, but maybe my feeling is misguided because it was introduced in a previous game. I don't know. Someone let me know in the comments what that's all about. But yeah, no, we're pretty much at the ending of this video. I had a great time with Spider-Man 2. Honestly, I just kind of felt compelled to actually get the platinum for it. I did not feel that sort of I did not feel compelled to do that with the previous games. So I don't know if that's because this game is more fun or if the platinum was just easier than the previous games. Like it definitely feels like this platinum was easier than the previous Spider-Man games, which isn't so much a bad thing. I had more fun with it. Like, overall, I think this game is better, though there's a few little details from the previous games that I kind of miss. Some of the costumes in the previous games I think I miss. I miss like the Ghost Rider one where you have a skull for a head. And also some of the side activities, like, you know, when a thug is like robbing a store, it would like adopt a unique camera angle. That's kind of gone here. So like there's little details from the previous games that I miss, but overall I think this is a much better game. The combat has a better flow to it for the most part until you fight the symbiotes. Then the combat kind of stops being fun. Like the last third of the game feels a little bit rushed. Like even this boss fight kind of feels like it's missing a third phase, though I am very thankful Venom doesn't have a third phase per se. Like, you know, he has like this first phase where it's like 2 phases with Peter, then he has this second phase where it's like 2 phases with Miles, but then like the game just kind of goes to cinematics to like do the rest of the phase. Though I definitely prefer this fight over the Doc Ock fight, because the Doc Ock fight was pretty much like fully a gimmick fight, and then like the last 5 minutes of it was like even more gimmicky, you feel me? While this was like an actual fight you had to like learn the movements from, and it was a little restrictive, but you know what, he's Venom, he's heavy, he can kind of restrict in unique ways. But yeah, no, I definitely really like this game, though I don't feel myself going any higher than my rating for the original game, because it does kind of feel like more of the same. Honestly, like this game was kind of a perfect popcorn muncher, and like that does feel like an insult, but what I mean by that is I could spend like 126 hours on this and like not get tired of it. Like the swinging is fun, you know, the combat is fun, and like I was just having a blast with it. Maybe some of the mission structures could have been like reworked better. The hand holding definitely, whenever it appears, is very like ewy, yucky, don't like it. Like, you know, these games are kind of made to appeal to everyone. In a sense, like these Spider-Man, like the Insomniac Spider-Man games do kind of feel like they're trying to be the ultimate Spider-Man game, so they have to include everything that every single person might like. They can't really specialize in a specific Spider-Man field or sense of gameplay or whatnot, so maybe there's like a certain version of this game which like specializes in one thing more and abandons another thing and would be better for it. But as an overall crowd pleaser, this is still a really great game, really beautifully... I don't know how to use my words, but I'm just going to sign off here. Thank you so much for watching my Spider-Man 2 No Damage, and I will see you all then, whenever the next one comes out.